So we'll continue on here with part two. If you haven't seen part one, it's in the description. Here we'll continue on with our watching of this video. And once again, if you haven't stepped in, if you haven't, if you have no idea what's going on, like I say, check part one. I'm going over this. We're using this as an example in order to understand what good game mastering and what bad game mastering is, and we'll just give it, let you have an example here. So we're not trying to beat up once again on Dungeon Musings, but if he doesn't know how to game master Traveler, you're going to you'll end up stuck like he is here, thinking in 2 dimensions instead of 3 dimensions. So let's continue on with this video.
185. So Spurl.
How many of you have heard of this? No, he already did that, so I skipped over it.
This planet is best known for the practice of hunting, and maybe we see, like in the film version, this would be like the TAS travel guide. Spurl. The planet is best known for the practice of hunting titanic amoeba colonies called Spurl whales, which can be processed into valuable biochemicals. The General Development Corporation, GDCO, invested in Spurl whale processing factories and now exert almost total control over the government. Spurl is a TL7 planet, which means that the tech level is a little ways between like where we are in present day Earth and about the 1990s. So you can picture that kind of like late 90s, early 2000s level of tech. For everywhere outside of the starport, there is a starport in orbit that is a really impressive one. It's a Class B starport run by GDCO. GDCO, for all your industrial needs. And they on the surface there is mostly the processing facilities, but there is the same level of technology. But as soon as you get away from here, there's very limited landmass on Spurl. So either there are floating arcologies that are kind of built, or there are things that are built like on the fairly shallow seabed, or there are people who just make their living on the seas. One of the upsides with this being a water world is that there was not an awful lot of life here beforehand. So it's almost entirely imported species, which means that there are relatively few dangerous predators on.
Alrighty, so this part we're gonna talk about exposition. So what you've just witnessed is the wrong way to game master. So if I was to game master this part, alrighty, so we have the crew approaching the planet, and the first thing you must do in your session 0 is establish, the baselines of your technology, so that all the players are on board on what technology they have available to them. They understand what the ship is capable of. The ship has a library. It has scanning equipment. It can detect, visuals. It can detect, broadcasts coming off the planet and stuff like that. It will have, a basic navigational system, which will have a beacon, which will show up on the screen, showing you where the starport is. Maybe it'll have some sort of information as the players are approaching the planet. The screens will be showing, the main features of the planet, showing you that it's mainly water. And, there's some little specs on there showing, populations. And that's it. Now, the players have to, once you've established kind of the technology, and you can say, okay, and what you see is obviously lower technology, or what you see is obviously higher technology than what you have. You get a base understanding on what's going on. You don't have to start explaining things, in years all the time. And but I mean, you can use kind of like, okay, it's kind of like the 90s or whatever. They just kind of give them a baseline edge in all their brains on what's going on this planet. Now, as far as exposition goes, this is the wrong way. You want to feed players a little bit of stuff. Kind of just, okay, yeah, they know they're on a ship. They've arrived. I've given a basic description that it's a water world and the name of the planet. They have a beacon on the thing showing, yeah, the starport is down below. It appears to be a B, B-type starport, which they would understand is a fairly sophisticated facility. Not the top of the line, but down below from there, just slightly. So if your players are knowledgeable in Traveler and all the aspects of what the starports stand for, then it's a little bit easier. If they do not, well, then it's a little harder. It's always good to have the players go through the basic rule book to understand how the worlds are constructed and all that stuff. It's good for them to know all those things because in Traveler you have such a wide, vast expanse of stuff that you can throw at them that every time it'd be something new and exciting or weird, and that's all up to you as a game master to have the players explore things. Now, if you're doing the expositioning stuff so that the players do not have to explore this, that's kind of a missed opportunity. So in this situation, I wouldn't be spewing stuff out like Dungeon Musings is. What I would end up doing is rolling the ball towards the players' court, where the players will decide, okay, let's do a further scan and see whether or not we can bring up kind of communication lines and stuff like that. And I say, the computer brings up, some screens showing you some commercials from Judico, showing sustainable whaling practices on the planet, and blah 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 blah. So now the players are now got this thing in their head. Okay, maybe this place is ran by a corporation called Judico, and it's kind of important. All right, let's go ahead and signal the starport and get ourselves some landing procedures. And the starport goes ahead and beams back. Yeah, thank you for joining. I'll have kind of like more prep than this, but thank you for contacting the starport facilities of Judico Center. Please proceed to landing bay 19, blah blah blah. Continue on this course being broadcasted on communication signal 956A1, and the players go ahead and okay, we'll proceed. And I will say, the ship glides towards a huge, massive what looks to be like a building sprawling out from the center of some limited landmass from creeping out from the ocean, and there's various ports on the very top of this building. This building spans like probably a good 200 stories high above the planetary surface, and they're kind of like, wow, cool. Some people might be, what's an arcology, and you're just explaining it to them in kind of layman's terms and not getting into like a massive amount of detail. You can show them a picture, which is nice to have AI artwork for this kind of thing. As even though I do 3D art and stuff like that myself, or draw stuff myself and do all that kind of things, I do not have time to commit to that. I'm full time, managing store, and that's my gig, and I do not have time after work because I have kids, I have family, I have all this stuff. I have my hobbies as well, other than role playing. I I practice guitar, stuff like that, or I'm writing something for somebody else's videos and stuff like that. And I do various different things. Or I might decide, oh, it's time to play a game. I just gotta chill out and relax. So AI is a really cool thing lately that has been is perfect for any game master. Just go ahead and type in something and create an image, and boom, you've got yourself something that the players can grasp onto in order for them to have a collective idea and common ground that all the players can go to. Because once again, if players are all thinking in different ways, from their experiences in life. My experience in life isn't the same as Josh's experience in life, as the same as it's not the same experience as Spencer's, experiences in life, and not the same as as any of those is Gord's, experience in life. So each of us have different ideas that pop into our heads whenever something is being, iterated by the game master or referee. And that having this kind of technology of the AI to make images or having images ready is really good in order to keep everybody on board on the same page. Now, as they explore, I will end up, giving them tidbits of what's happening as they realize that, oh, okay, um, if they ask certain questions with certain facilitators in the environment, they could, if they ended up going to the library and researching stuff in the archaeology, they may discover that, oh, okay, a lot of the life forms on this planet aren't native to this world, and they've built it so that there's no longer any predatory critters on here. So there's definitely going to be an abundance of fish life basically thriving here, and the only predator there is on the planet obviously would be man, humanity themselves, which are harvesting and maintaining the crops, being the whales and such on this planet. And that's what this planet is for. That's what they do. And you could put in cool things in here, like uh, gangs of workers, and maybe there's some sort of union thing going on, and there's maybe demonstrations and stuff like that. You could inject all kinds of different things that make this world come to life as the players are encountering them. But the players must be moving around and involving themselves into these situations where they're learning these things instead of having the game master spew out a bunch of information to them and thus spoiling the exploration part of the game. Now, there's a lot of players out there that will sit back and just listen to the ride. Basically, they're just sitting back and waiting to roll their dice, and that's all they are, is die rollers. They're just sitting back, not saying anything, because if they with this kind of game mastery, what would happen if one of the players spoke out and says, hey, wait, we didn't step off our ship. I'm still on the ship. I didn't hear anybody else stepping off the ship. What's going on, game master? And that's what should be happening, is players that are like, I didn't say I was doing this. I didn't say I was. But instead, what we're having here is all the players are kind of complacent in their inactivity in the game. But for me, I want to have my players active. I want them to be seeking out the things. I want them to be discovering the things. And that's part of the fun of the game. And that's what people are forgetting about what role playing really is the exploration, the discovery, the understanding, the misunderstanding, and the possible weird situations that could happen given at any time. I mean, there could be something like, for instance, I could throw something in here. Let's say like maybe some sort of like a little sideline science project going on in the background that the players don't know about yet, which they're like, there's these scientists that are thinking, man, we're like really having an overabundance of stuff. We need to introduce something in order to jack up the prices a little bit. So we'll go ahead and introduce some sort of uh, amoeba style, like a giant amoeba style creature that they engineer in order for it to become more of a predator on the planet, in order to kind of reduce some of the stocks, in order to make the prices go up on the on the market, and thus they can reap a little bit more of the rewards of their of their trade. And you can involve these guys are bad guys apparently, so they are the bad guys, but the only reason why they're bad guys is because of their point of view. You may think, oh, that's an awful thing to do, but in context of the industry, this is a good thing to do because they want to have the prices going up in order to make more money. And if you think that's an evil thing, well, then that's going to be your bad guy, right? So, and it's up to the players to decide who the bad guys are or who the good guys are. They're going to be picking their sides here as they're starting to learn from different NPCs. They'll get more information. Maybe they'll get unreliable information. Maybe they are listening to the feed that's coming from the video screens all around on this world. Because once again, we are in like a Tech 7 world. So they're they'll have the cathode tube TVs and stuff like that, video screen feeds coming off of that, and and there'll be like little speakers everywhere and stuff that they're going off. There's little monitor systems and stuff, going on, and all kinds of things that they are discovering as they are walking through the streets of what they're seeing here on the video. And I say that is the fun aspect as players discover stuff and learn things. And the players decide on what they're going to do from then on. I step back, and this is where a lot of game masters have issues. Is they want to have the control, and it's not that because they're evil they want to have the control. Game master wants to tell a story and wants to tell a story in a particular way. I don't. I stepped away from that. It takes a bit of time before you're able to do this if you've been conditioned to do this all your life in a role-playing game. Stepping back and letting the players do what they want to do kind of will irritate a few game masters out there at first, until they realize the only thing that they're being irritated by is their lack of control on the situation. Game master must realize that he controls basically two things. One is the narration, and the other thing is NPCs, everybody else except the players. So as long as you know that's your bounds and that's your limit, it's free sailing. It gives you a lot of freedom in the background to think up things that are going on that you haven't written down yet. So you can add little notes and stuff like that, little sideline things, kind of like just what I did, adding in a kind of spurred off, science project, which is creating these amoebas that are eating, the livestock in order to boost up the prices. This could be something that the players decide to, start discovering. There might be an attack by one of these giant amoebas on one of the arcologies, and they end up, trying different things to kind of fend it off. They might end up trying electricity against it, and go ahead and cause a blackout on one of the arcologies, but at the same time saving it from the giant amoeba that was trying to consume it. And you can have things like that happen, kind of spur of the moment kind of things. And players, establish their fame and fortune by doing the actions that defeat the amoeba, if that's what happens. Or, they might end up trying to conduct some sort of an escape plan in the arcology and, try to save as many people as they can as this arcology is being consumed by this giant amoeba. A lot of stuff you can do and interject. It just takes, and not every game master can do that. Not every game master can come up with an idea like I just did, right? And present it. You'll see me as I'm thinking up cool stuff. I'll start writing it down, and my brain works a little differently because, I could end my session on a Sunday, and for the entire week, I will be like, what will they be doing? I think of this maybe 15 minutes out of every day. Kind of like, okay, what could happen here in the next while? And I might write down a note. But a lot of these notes are kind of like meh ideas. But it always happens that on the Sunday in the morning, on the day that I'm going to be having the session, my brain kicks into gear, goes, boop, I have an idea. Let's do this. And then I write down just a series of notes. So if you were keyed on my last session, this is my notes. Just basically that. Not much. All I did was write down a name of a like a nightclub. Then I wrote down, that there's the tech of the missile satellites, the satellites that are surrounding the planet. And I have some ideas. Oh, they have grav guns, and let's see. There's different places. There's Port Archeron. Then there's the tarmac, the customs, the stowage, the warehouse. I wrote down Rusk and Co's because I forgot their names, so I went ahead and wrote it down on this page, so I had the information handy. And I wrote down Herons, Drakes, Lawless, Stooges. These are different gangs on the planet. And that was basically it. And so I had the idea, and I presented it, and the players were discovering it slowly as they were going through. And then I had the idea, of course, of the Pendry here. I wrote down some notes about Pendry. Very, very quick notes. And it's a small population, representative democracy, water world, dense atmosphere, law level 5, tech 9. Kind of close to what what Dungeon Musing is using here. And I wrote down they are water farmers for a DMT type algae. So they're creating a drug on the surface of this planet made from algae. So the algae is being harvested, and therefore there is an abundance of this DMT type substance, which is highly hallucinogenic. Put your brain into an altered state where it doesn't even realize what time is or anything. It just totally distorts everything in your brain, and you're able to kind of discover weird things about your inner self, and it's kind of interesting kind of stuff. And then I wrote down that the other planets are here in dealing and stuff like that, and I wrote down secure missile defense must have password, and Commander Archhold. That's another. Now, if you watch my last episode, good. a good portion of this wasn't really actually mentioned in the game because it was stuff that they didn't encounter. But it's stuff that I've wrote down so that if they ever do show up to the planet again, I have the information on hand, and the players can further discover more interesting things if they decide to go back and do some more dealings on that planet. They'll discover, the name of who is in charge. They'll also discover the concept of the algae farming that is going on the planet, and so on. I did not exposition any of that to them. I just presented each situation as it occurred. They discover different things as their ship approaches the planet. They get a few broadcasts back and forth. They contact the starport. They go ahead and proceed at the exact coordinates that they were shown because they see that there's some sort of a defense grid around the planet, and that's all through their own doing of discovering stuff. I bring up stuff which comes up on the screens, as which would naturally happen. I don't make them roll for certain things, which are obvious, because if it's obvious that things should be popping up from the sensor readings, they don't need to roll for the stuff. And besides, if they rolled and they rolled badly, and in their sensor sweep, what effect is that? Your sensor sweep is full apart from the characters themselves. Your sensors are going to be picking up things, and it's up to your players to read into what it is that they're seeing on the screen. And if it's pretty evident that there's a defense grid around the planet, it's pretty obvious that you don't need to do a roll for those kinds of things. I think we did maybe 2 or 3 rolls for the entire session, but they were for necessary things that could cause interesting things to happen, right? So, if you're picking up on what I'm talking about here and catching my drift, I hope you are. If you have questions and comments, do that in the bottom. Like, say, Rick, expound on what you're talking about here on this. We don't understand, or whatever. And I can answer back in a video later on. But I think as far as this part 2 goes, this is all you really need to understand about this entire session and what's going wrong here. It continues on with Dungeon Musings basically doing the same thing. He starts reading stuff out of the book and slides the players from point A to point B to point C, and the players don't give any feedback on, I would like to go ahead and check this out. I would like to check that out, or I do the thing in order to bring up, some information on Judico or whatever the name of the company was. They don't even interject that way. It's just like Dungeon Musings is just reading off stuff from a book, and I don't understand. And you got a bunch of feedback underneath their comments. This is the greatest game ever! Yay! I'm like, have we all gotten accustomed to this kind of thing as being called role playing? And that's a problem, because it isn't role playing. It's just somebody being an author and everybody else being a die roller for kind of typically mundane things that really don't, really cause any difference, or, have anything that it involves any kind of making something interesting happen. And that's a problem with a lot of these broadcasts that you see on YouTube. And And it's kind of sad. And both me and Sean are both on the same page on this. This is not how to role play. Role playing is a skill. Okay? It's something that you develop. It's not something that you naturally have, you know. I could, for example, my guitar's back there. Okay? Once again, guitar back there. If you have somebody just come up and start going ding 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 on the string, does that make him a guitar player? He's making noise with the guitar string. You know, it's making a sound. He must be a guitar player. He must be. But it's the same thing with role playing. If you're a role player and you're just, kind of just once in a while, speaking as your character, but that's about it, but nothing really happens other than that. Like you're not interacting as your character. You're just being yourself, asking questions, out of character and stuff. That isn't role playing. That's not role playing at all. And I don't know. There's got to be a few of us out here that have to call it out for what it is. And yeah, I don't want to beat up on Dungeon Musings or anything, but how do you end up telling them that what they're doing is wrong without them getting all upset and everything, and getting all uh, like, what do you mean, blah blah blah? Let's see you do it, and I'd be like, yeah, well, watch my videos and watch and listen to my GM's diaries and listen to the mind's eye here and start to understand what's happening here. And that's why I have this going on. We're starting to hit the end here of this part, and I think this is all I really need to say as far as this whole thing goes. Is if you start to understand what's happening here, you can go ahead and make adjustments and become a better game master. But at the same time, as you are trying to become a better game master, you have to, you know, let your players know, hey, we're going to try something different here, and we're going to go ahead and actually role play. So I need you guys all on board on this. I need you guys to all talk in character all throughout the entire session. If you have a question to ask, do it through your character. Use the device that brings up the information that you are looking for on that particular thing. I, as a game master, am a narrator, and you never see in a movie any of the characters talking to the narrator. You are, you as an actor character, if it's a movie, an actor, you are interacting using different things and bringing up, or you're asking an NPC a question in order to discover more answers. That's how you role play. And if you're not doing that, you're just going back and forth with the player and taking yourself out of the immersion. Talking back and forth with the game master, and just getting answers to questions without actually performing it as your character. So, and that just takes you out of the immersion totally, and that's part of the rewarding part, is being immersed and being part of the story that you are creating and not what the game master is creating. And that's a hurdle to get over, because you're thinking as a game master, oh, I got to make all this stuff, I have to think of all these things that players need to, to lock on to. I need to make my volumes of information. And like I say, just my minor notes here, just these 2 minor note pages, they didn't use half of it. So My session was a lot of, I had my notes enough to get everything going on for that entire session and more. And I don't need the big book in order to read out of, and I don't even have the traveler book on hand. It's on the shelf back over there. I don't even open that up during my sessions. I just have everything being, all the player character sheets are on the virtual tabletop, so everything works out okay there. So, anyways, if you like what you're seeing here and you're learning something, hit subscribe and and join up. I'm only currently at 370 some odd subscribers. I got a small following, but and I do appreciate all of you with your input and stuff like that. And I do read all your comments and try to make videos in order to kind of answer some of the questions you have or to clarify certain things that I say in order for you to further understand how I'm talking, because it is a hard kind of thing to it is a hard thing to do, to go from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. And unfortunately, Dungeon Musings is in 2 dimensions. I would love to see him become a 3 dimensional game master, because that would be really cool. Because, like I say, he's got a good presentable voice. He seems to know what he wants to commit to the game, but he doesn't know how to execute it properly. And he's been stuck in this, in this cycle, which he thinks is good because his feedback from his comments are not giving him the proper critique in order for him to become a better game master. And so he's complacent in where he sits, I assume. But I can't speak for him. Maybe he is, asking questions about his game mastery skills. I do that all the time, and that's how I'm trying to get you guys out there to learn, and for me to learn from you, because you're asking me questions in the background, because I'm getting some insight on how I used to think back in the day as well. When I was like, we had to have tokens, we had to have miniatures or whatever. And that was how things had changed, since I got back into the game world. I was thinking, well, everybody's playing it like a computer game, so that's the way it goes. Anyways, I will stop yakking from here on, and yeah, this is basically everything I really wanted to cover about SHONNERS video. Check out SHONNERS stuff. You'll get mad at him, you'll get angry or whatever. It's okay. He has his way he wants to play. I have my way I want to play, and everybody else does. That's totally okay. But you have to understand where we're coming from when it comes to role playing, and that we have kind of a shared common ground between us, in that we want the players to perform, and we want the game master to narrate and be the NPC or NPCs that help elaborate on the situation at hand, and have the players discover it naturally through exploration by their own means, and have the players come up with their own ideas on how they're going to tackle the problem, instead of us routing them through a certain route in order for things to happen. So just my 5 cents on that thing. Hope you enjoy that, and we'll talk to you guys again in the future with another one of these. Take care.